Hey, what's up guys, it's AndreOth here, bringing you guys another video, and in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a Drake inspired UK drill beat. Let's get into it. So you guys, I actually started this beat off with this sample. I think I found it on Splice. There was like this really long sample on Splice. I was just searching through different samples. I found this really long one. I thought it had a bit of potential, so I actually dragged it into Logic. I actually chopped a certain part of the sample that I liked, and then I decided to make a beat around that part. So yeah, I went for a sample because a lot of the times when you get that kind of ambient, airy sound and drill beats, a lot of them are coming from certain samples, unless they're using like a piano or something like that. But yeah, so that's why I decided to go with a sample. I didn't really do anything to the sample, I just chopped it just so it sounded like how I wanted it to sound. But yeah, anyway, the sample just ended up sounding like this. So yeah, after we got the sample down, after we got the melody down, we already kind of had that drill kind of vibe, that drill kind of mood already set from the sample. So I decided to move on to the drums, and as usual I always start my drums off with some snares. So I went and found some snares, some nice sharp, hard hitting snares, because I feel like the snares in a drill beat have to be hard hitting. That's just kind of how it has to be. I know in a lot of trap songs and stuff like that, the snares can be quite thin and quite slight, but I feel like in a drill beat you need to have a hard hitting snare that does have some high end as well. So I found a snare that fit that criteria. It's sounding good, I liked how it sounded, and yeah, I just came up with a very simple snare pattern. Again, when it comes to drill beats, you wanna get the pattern down right, especially when it comes to the snares, because you want to get that bounce and that rhythm. So here's the pattern that I use. If you want to make a drill beat, I recommend using a similar pattern to this, and you can switch up if you want, but yeah, this is just a standard kind of drill kind of snare pattern. And everything together should sound like this. So yeah, then when I was finished with the snares, I then moved on to the hi-hats. Again, the hi-hats are again very important when it comes to drill beats. The type of hi-hats that you want to go for is just your standard kind of trap kind of sounding hi-hats, you know, those rattling sounding hi-hats, or you can go for a more thinner kind of style. That's the one I went for. So I found these hi-hats, I think I found them in Splice. I just dragged them into Logic, and then I came up with this very simple but effective drill kind of bounce kind of hi-hat pattern. And again, when you're doing a drill beat, you need to get that bounce, especially from the hi-hats as well, because again, that gives the beat that rhythm, that bounce, that flow that makes it drill. So try not to get used to the kind of trap you know, two-step kind of hi-hat pattern. You want to be a little bit more creative with it, because you're really trying to get that bounce when you're doing the hi-hat. So yeah, I just found these kind of thinner sounding trappy hi-hats, and I came up with this very simple drill inspired hi-hat pattern that sounded like this. And when you have that paired with everything else, the whole beat should sound like this. Then when I moved on from the hi-hats, I then moved on to the kicks, which was the final part of the drums. And again, the kicks are very important. I feel like every aspect of the drums are really important when it comes to drill beats, because you need to have that bounce. When it comes to kicks, the kicks can be quite minimal. You can just keep it simple and have the kicks quite minimal. I kind of did that at first, but I decided to add a few more kicks in there, just because I feel like with the tempo of this drill beat, it kind of warranted a few more kicks. I wanted the kicks to be a little bit more busy, but when it comes to drill beats, you kind of want the kicks to be more simple. And also the kicks need to be hard hitting, they need to be punchy, you know, because especially when you add the bass, when you add the 808s, you need to have that punchy kick that's going to punch through the 808s to make the 808 sound even more loud and booming. So I ended up finding the perfect kicks. They were really hard hitting, very punchy. I think I might have actually used it in another drill beat that I did, so I decided to stick with it. So I just came up with this very simple kick pattern that kind of kept that bounce, that drill kind of bounce, that drill kind of rhythm, and it ended up sounding like this. And then when you hit that paired with the rest of the beat, the whole beat should sound like this. So then after that, I was pretty much done with the drums, I was done with the melody, and the last part of the beat is really the 808. So with the 808s in any drill beat, they have to be very prominent, so they have to be quite loud, quite obnoxious, and quite aggressive, and you want them to be booming, which will especially help when you're doing the bass glides as well. You want the 808s to have some sort of release to it. You don't want it to be a very short 808. So yeah, I just searched through my Splice. I just searched through the different files that I had in Splice. I searched through all the 808s and all the bass that I had in there, and I found this 808 that went perfectly. I thought it was very prominent, it was very loud, very aggressive, and it was exactly what I was looking for. So yeah, I just dragged that into the EXS24 because that's the best kind of program to use on Logic to get those bass glides. So I just dragged it into there. I just used these settings, so make sure you have legato on, make sure you turn up glide to probably around 60, just like I have it here on the screen, and these settings will allow you to have those bass glides. So yeah, then after that I just came up with a bass line that went with the main melody. So I kind of tried to stick with the kind of core notes from the main melody and have that as the basis of my 808 bass line. And then after that I then started to add onto it, added the bass glides and stuff like that. So after I was happy with the 808 bass line, I thought it had some nice glides in there, and I actually wanted to do a little bit more with the glides. Normally with a lot of my drill beats, the glides are quite minimal, but a lot of drill beats, they kind of have those bass glides that kind of build on top of each other, so they kind of sound like this. So you see how it kind of builds on each other, and it's kind of like multiple glides instead of just one little bass glide. So that's what I wanted to do with this beat, and it's really simple to do. You'll see when I show you the actual bass line that I came up with, but all you got to do is just get some notes that stack on top of each other, or if you want them to kind of glide down, get those same notes to stack on top of each other but go down in almost like stairs kind of pattern. And then that's kind of what you see in a lot of drill beats when they have those bass glides that the stack on top of each other. That's kind of what they do. But yeah, I ended up finishing the bass line and it ended up sounding like this. Then when you hear everything played together, the whole beat should come together like this. So then after that, I was pretty much finished with the main body of the beat. The only thing I did after that was kind of add a couple of extra things to the beat just to make it sound a little bit more interesting. And the things that I added to it is kind of the standard stuff that you hear on a lot of drill tracks. So the first thing I did was add a little filter. With my beat, I just had a little intro section. With the intro section, I just played the melody, but I slapped an auto filter on there. I put the constant rise 4 bars preset on it just so it kind of filters it. I think it took out a lot of the high end, and then it slowly kind of, after about 4 bars, it reintroduced the high end just to give that kind of effect that you see on a lot of drill records. And yeah, the effect just sounded like this. The other thing that I did was add like a little chop, a little kind of glitchy kind of effect that you see in a lot of drill records. A lot of drill records, you'll have a little section of it where there's like a chop, it's like a glitchy kind of section where they have the melody or the whole beat kind of doing some sort of glitchy pattern. So that's what I did with the beat. So basically what I did was I kind of bounced out the one section of the beat. So I had the melody, the drums and the bass and stuff like that. I just bounced that little section, and then just to make it easier to kind of chop it up. And then what I did, I just had this little idea of a little chop idea, and then I just chopped the beat up in sections just to give that kind of glitchy kind of effect. I also kind of added like a little slow down fade. So what I did was I got the fade tool, I added a little fade to the end of one of the sections that I chopped, and then I put it on, I changed the option to slow down instead of fade down. So instead of kind of fading out the volume, it kind of slows down almost like a little record player kind of effect that you hear on a lot of drill record. And that's one kind of good little tip that you can add to your drill beats to make it sound a bit more interesting. And yeah, it ended up sounding good. I actually liked how it sounded, and yeah, it ended up sounding like this. So I think you see what I mean by that kind of record stop kind of effect that you hear in a lot of drill records, that's what I was going for. And then I did something else. It's not really a trick or an effect. It's just kind of a good way to kind of structure your drill beat. So basically what it is I did was I just had the melody. I started the beat off with the melody, and instead of kind of dropping the beat, you know, with the kicks and the bass and stuff like that, I kind of just had a section where I just brought in the bass and the hi-hats. So not the hi-hats and the snares, just the bass and the hi-hats. And for some reason, you know, when you hear that on a drill beat, you just get excited. So that's kind of a little tip for you. If you want to have like a nice little intro, you just have the melody playing and then bring in the bass and the hi-hats, you know, just like I'm about to show you. But it really kind of just builds that kind of hype and excitement within the intro of like a drill record. But yeah, this is what I was talking about, and yeah, it just sounded like this. So yeah guys, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did like the video though, please click the like button down below and subscribe for more, because I have way more videos like this coming out every single week. And if you guys want to get 10 free beats, there's a link in the description that you can click that will give you guys 10 free beats. They come with MP3s, waves, trackouts, and an unlimited license. So check that out in the description down below. And if you guys want, you can follow me on Twitter and you can follow me on Instagram for all the latest updates. And I'll catch you guys in this video. Peace.